Prime Minister, I want to tell you, this diaspora here in Florida and in the southern United States has been simply fantastic. I appreciate each of you, your support. I've been here now 6 years as Consul General, and you've been very supportive over the time. And I want to say on behalf of my wife Tanya and my daughter Serena and the entire team at the consulate, a big heartfelt thank you to each of you for your ongoing support. That's a clap you do. When I do that, you clap, right? Yeah. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if you are here today and you are especially proud to be Jamaican, can you make some noise? Can you make some noise? Mr. Cameraman, please get out your camera. If you are proud to be Jamaican, just raise your hand, raise your flags at this time. All hands in the air as we big up the greatest country in the world, Jamaica. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank all the persons who have come out today. I know we have people who have traveled from far and wide. I'm told there's a crew in here from Orlando. Is that true? Orlando? Them little but them? Jamaica will little but we? I'm not going to talk long today, you know, because it is an honor for me to have the boss in town. So I'm going to cut it short. But I just want to just big up our resident MC who continues to make us proud every time, Mr. Norman Hemmings. Judge Hemmings. Thank you, sir. Sometimes I go a little close to the edge, you know. I just pull back just in time, you know. Sometimes I just sit there and get a little nervous, but it always come true. Mayor Messam, thank you, sir. Thank you for your kind words. Thank you for your support. I want to thank each of the commissioners. Each one of you has been equally supportive, and I appreciate each of you. I want to recognize the commissioners from Lauderdale Lakes, all the team from Sunrise, Pembroke Pines. I'm going to get myself in trouble now. Lauderhill, Tamarack. Give me a rhythm. Remember, just go on through it. Right. Coral Springs, Miami Gardens. Ladies and gentlemen, are you aware that Broward County, as a county, has more Jamaicans than any other county in the United States? So this is the heart of the diaspora right here, and we are proud. I want to recognize Victoria Mutual, Paul Elliott and team. Thank you so much for your support putting the event together. One of our legacy partners. A lot of work went into today. I want to thank all the volunteers, even before the end of the day. Suzette, Lotta Lee, Cheryl Winter, Kareem, get myself in trouble now, call names. The entire consulate team. Somebody going to chop off my head when I go outside. Thank you to all the sponsors. I say Blue Mountain Coffee. I say Cleveland with him ice cream. Jerk ice cream outside, all kind of things happening. Thank you so much for your support, right? I want to thank Reverend Green, the two reverends, celebrating 30 years ChristWay Baptist. Let's give it up for ChristWay Baptist. I want to thank all the heads of the diaspora organizations and members who are here today. Sorry, I can't call everybody by name, but thank you all for your support, ladies and gentlemen. We are here. We are thankful that we have our Prime Minister with us today. Our Prime Minister is with us today. Let's give it up for our Prime Minister. I will be doing the introduction, so I'll say a little bit more about our Prime Minister. But in closing, when you're heading home this evening, and you're driving down and passing a particular hotel, if you happen to pass the Hard Rock Hotel, you're going to see the beautiful Jamaican colors on the hotel. Ladies and gentlemen, Let us make some noise for Jamaica, land we love. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Consul General. Now, this great church is celebrating their 30th year in existence and serving the South Florida community. The city of Miramar is celebrating their 70th year as a city. Yes, you can clap for that as well. However, there is an organization, a legacy partner of this evening and of the Jamaican diaspora that's been in existence for 147 years, 1878. That organization is known as Victoria Mutual. And yes. And I have the honor and the distinct pleasure this evening of introducing to some and presenting to others the Chief Executive Officer of Victoria Mutual, a man who, just to tell you, this is the type of man he is. We were speaking upstairs, and he said to me, my housekeeper packed the wrong suit for me to wear here this evening. So I'm wearing, she sent me with an older suit. So he had to go to an expensive store and buy another suit. He says, it's just not the same. Well, I looked down at my little Walmart suit, and I said to myself, what must he be thinking of me? All right, but in any event, put your hands together as Mr. Paul Elliott comes, the CEO of Victoria Mutual.
I wish I was warned about telling my stories. But, I'm here. Prime Minister of Jamaica, the Most Honorable Dr. Andrew Holness, CG, our beloved Oliver Mayor, of course the Mayor, Messam, other distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. It's truly a pleasure to be with you at the Diaspora Forum this evening, an evening with the Prime Minister. I get to experience him back home, so, you know, I'm a little better off than you are, but it's good to be with him again this evening. On behalf of the VM Building Society, and you notice I say VM Building Society because a lot of you here, when you left, we were the Victoria Mutual Building Society. You recognize this. So we're here, but we rebranded, so we're now the VM Group, and the entity within the group, which is a DTI, the Deposit Taking Institution, is now called the VM Building Society. All right? So on behalf of the VM Building Society and the wider VM Group, I would like to extend a warm welcome to all of you, to offer a special thank you to the Consul General of Jamaica in Miami for hosting this important event. We at VM Building Society are honored to support this forum as we continue to strengthen our connection with Jamaicans both at home and abroad. It is not just a privilege to be here, but a reminder of the deep ties we share with our fellow Jamaicans across the world, and especially with our vibrant diaspora community right here in Florida. For those of you who may be familiar, VMBS was the first financial institution to establish overseas representative offices back in the 1980s, a move that was driven by our recognition of the immense value of the Jamaican diaspora and the desire of so many of you to stay connected to the land of your birth. We understand the unique financial needs of the diaspora, and we've made it our mission to offer solutions that help you to achieve financial well-being no matter where you are. If I may take tales out of school, 1 in 4 mortgages that we write is underwritten for someone living in diaspora. And a significant percentage, yeah, that's an applause moment. And a significant percentage of the deposits we hold in our business represent the savings that you send back home. So we thank you. As a strong partner in your journey, whether you're building personal wealth or running a business, VMBS is here to support you. We offer a range of financial products and services tailored to your needs. And we're ready and eager to work alongside you to help you build and achieve your goals. both here in Florida and back home in Jamaica. We also know that there are many friends of Jamaica and Florida and across the United States who also have bold financial dreams and who can benefit from the expertise of the VM Building Society. And I'm here to say we are here for you. I want to assure you that despite any concerns you may have from items in the news over recent months, the Jamaican banking sector, the Jamaican economy remains strong. The financial sector remains adequately capitalized and stable. There are robust safeguards in place, including the Jamaica Deposit Insurance Corporation, which ensures your savings are protected. These protections help foster confidence in the financial system. And at VMBS, we are committed to safeguarding your hard-earned money. We have been doing this for more than 146 years and counting. If you have any questions or would like to learn more about how VM Building Society can help you or your family or your business to achieve its goals, our VM team, headed by Suzette, is here this evening and ready to answer your questions. Finally, I want to thank you once again for being here this evening and for your ongoing support of the VM Building Society and Jamaica Land We Love. We look forward to continuing this partnership and to work with you to achieve greater success. And if you want to be convinced about the going back to Jamaica, I worked outside of Jamaica for 10 years. And this year marks 9 years since I've returned. It's the best decision I made. So if you want to. With that, I will not stand in the way of the Prime Minister any further. So I thank you and I wish you all a good evening.
We're here for you. We are written into this land. You are written into our story. Together stronger we stand. Your win is our victory. We're a firm foundation here to stay. Build you a brighter way. Transform your everyday.
VM Group. Transform your everyday.
Excellent. What warm words from the VM group. Mr. Prime Minister, I apologize to you. You may have noticed I was on my phone. You probably thought it was disrespectful. My wife was texting me. She says, earlier, our Oliver Mayor indicated that Jamaica is the greatest country on earth. She warned me that I could lose my job and be deported. So where's the camera? Where's the camera? I would just like to say I'm an American, and this is the greatest country on the face of the earth. Thank you. That was my wife. It's my wife. Now, the next voices that you'll have an opportunity to hear, they're perhaps the most melodic choir that anyone could have inside or outside of Jamaica. And in fact, they've received national and international recognition. My sister actually routinely sings on this choir, but due to illness, she was unable to sing tonight, so they won't be as good. However, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you at this time the South Florida Chorale.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, again. The South Florida Caribbean Chorale has been serving the South Florida community for over 20 years. Yes? We celebrated our 20th anniversary last Christmas, and we're continuing with our Lenten concert, a free concert at Plantation United Methodist Church this coming Sunday. So we're invited to join us. And now we'll do Jamaica Land of Beauty, and this arrangement is by Paulette Bellamy. The chorale is 35 strong, but we were able to get 8 of us. I'm the 9th. Jamaica, land of beauty, we promise faithfully to serve thee with our talents and bring our gifts to thee. Jamaica, we will always, in honor of thy name, work steadfastly and wisely, and never bring thee shame. From riverside to mountain, from cane field to the sea, our hearts salute Jamaica, triumphant, proud, and free. Together in our country, in love and brotherhood, we'll work and play in freedom, as all God's children should, with hearts and hands united, in thanks for everything that God has given unto us. Together let us sing, from riverside to mountain, from cane field to the sea. Our hearts salute Jamaica, triumphant, proud, and free, with hearts and hands united, in thanks for everything that God has given unto us. Together let us sing, from riverside to mountain, from cane field to the sea. Our hearts salute Jamaica, triumphant, proud, and free. Proud and free. Thank you.
Thank you all so very much. Weren't they just simply fantastic? In the year 1694, a property was built on the island of Jamaica that initially was known as Prospect Pen. That bit of property went through a number of changes in hands of ownership until eventually it was purchased by the British government and now used by the Jamaican government. You may know it by the name that is now accorded to it, that of Vale Royal. Well, Jamaica has been honored to have a lot of men and one woman serve as Prime Minister of that great nation over the course of its existence. But I believe that no other Prime Minister has graced Vale Royal with the same dignity, aplomb, stewardship, academic scholarship as the speaker that you're going to hear from in just a few seconds. So at this time, I'll ask that you'll put your hands together as our Consul General, R. Oliver Mayer, comes to give a proper and dignified introduction to the Prime Minister of Jamaica, the Most Honorable Andrew Holness. You will notice that I'm a lot more demure and quiet. I was Yes. For the Jamaicans in the house, that rocks me up in the corner over there. And I say, watch those foolish jokes. This is the Prime Minister of a dignified nation. Put your hands together as our Oliver Mayer comes.
Normally when you're introducing a Prime Minister, you have a very long, about 3 or 4 sheets, but now the Prime Minister's asked for something. I have a very brief introduction here because we don't want to delay any longer. But I just want to, the Spirit has led me to say, Broward County Rep, Hazel Rogers, I just want to recognize you. Here we go. All right, good. Dr. the Most Honorable Andrew Michael Holness, ONPC MP, Prime Minister of Jamaica. We're pleased to welcome Dr. the Most Honorable Andrew Holness, Prime Minister of Jamaica, who is building partnerships to promote inclusive economic growth and improve citizen security to advance a vision of peace, productivity, and prosperity for all Jamaicans. Leading an agile and responsive government, the Prime Minister is committed to making Jamaica the place of choice to live, to work, raise families, do business, and retire in paradise. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand as we welcome the Prime Minister of Jamaica, who needs no further introduction. Let's hear it for our Prime Minister.
By this I know that you favored me, O God, for you never allowed my enemies to triumph over me. Hallelujah.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Hallelujah. God is good. And all the time. Let me begin by acknowledging the Director of Protocol for the masterful mastery of the ceremony, Judge Norman Hemmings. You have said quite a bit and given us very useful history lessons. But I want to correct you very quickly that the theme song for the year of my second turn at the wicket as Prime Minister, though it may have been appropriate in title, Miracle, but the actual theme song was by a lesser known artist, but still well known, a man by the name of Nesmith. And his song was My Dream. And by the response, I believe most Jamaicans here would know the song and would agree. Because it's not just my dream, it's our dream. I'm sure we have a shared vision for our Jamaica. I'm pleased to be in the sanctuary, and I want to thank the Reverend Dean Green for his prayers, and for Reverend and Mrs. Green, the parents of Reverend Green, for hosting us today in your lovely sanctuary. And congratulations on your 30th year. I had to travel all the way to Miami to learn that the first name of our Consul General was Roderick. Because for all the years I have known him, I've just known him as Oliver at large. And please, you can stop telling me that he's the best Consul General. I have no intentions of moving him. So he's Of course, you know, I believe we've met before, Mr. Mayor, and indeed it is my pleasure again to have made your acquaintance. And I will hold the key to the city very carefully. And I do commit to using it more often. Let me also acknowledge Mayor Denise Grant of the City of Lauderhill and the other elected officials who are here. Mr. Paul Elliott, the Chief Executive Officer of Victoria Mutual. And let me pause here to say that you have taken about 5 minutes off my presentation by reassuring Jamaicans that the Jamaican financial system is strong and resilient. I want to acknowledge as well the heads of the various diaspora organizations that may be here. Thank you so much for coming. And special recognition to the mentor band and the choir, the chorale. Lovely, lovely, lovely. And to you. They're wonderful people who have taken your Friday evening off to be here with me. I am truly humbled by your presence. I know you could have been elsewhere, you could have been doing other things, but you chose to be here, and I am very humbled and grateful, and I want to say thank you so much for being here. This is a packed audience, and I believe that there may be persons hosted on the outside, that there is an overflow. As a politician, I have to acknowledge these things, you see. Oh, yes, of course. They're on my list of salutations. And these days, of course, your larger audience is online. And I do have a very loyal online followership. And of course, there may be other persons who have joined. And therefore, I want to thank all those who are viewing us now, watching us virtually. Your presence makes this event even greater than what is physically gathered. And I'm being told to call out social media by name. I don't want to get into any problems, but you know all the social media: TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. I'm not sure we're on X. I was just about to say X. So I am here today to give you a piece of my mind. Oh, no. Otherwise, let me say it in another way. To share my mind with you. I was trying to follow Judge. I can't do it as well as you. But, so, where do I begin? First, let me say that Jamaica is at an inflection point. Jamaica is at an inflection point. And the best way to describe an inflection point is it is at the point in which your effort yields greater results. So the effort that you're putting out, you're starting to get far more results than the effort. Because for a long time, we have been at the point where we're putting out a lot of effort and not getting commensurate results. But now we are right at that stage where for every unit of effort, we're getting 2 or 3 units of results. I wonder if that makes sense. Yes, we are right at that point, the inflection point, where transformation is going to take place. Now, the challenge with transformation is that it is oftentimes, while it is occurring, it is imperceptible. So you're in transformation, but you just don't know You know, it's like you're going to the gym, you're exercising, you're running, you're dieting, and you're going on the scale and you're looking in the mirror and you say, what's happening? I'm not losing anyway. I'm not. And then one morning you get up and you say, whoa, my body looks so good. I have all these muscles now and I've lost all the weight and I feel great. But in that process, you may not feel that you're going through that. Your effort is yielding results. And that's where Jamaica is at that stage, where we're in this process of a transformation. And whilst you're in transformation, there are persons who may not necessarily see the results or feel the transformation. So we are in an inflection point, we are transforming, and the definition of a transformation, the best one I've heard, is it is the transition from being a caterpillar into a butterfly. Can you imagine that, right? I mean, the caterpillar is one physically distinct entity, but when it goes into the cocoon and it transforms, when it changes, it comes out as a totally different creature. Now, it's hard to say which is more beautiful from a biological standpoint. Is it the caterpillar or the butterfly? But we all know that the butterfly is far more glorious than the creeping caterpillar. Because the butterfly has wings and it can soar and rise and it's beautiful. And that's what we want to do for Jamaica. That's where we are now. Yeah. So, I was on the plane today, coming in, and someone who was also a passenger asked if he could come and sit beside me to spend a few minutes to talk to me. And I said, sure, fine. And we were having a conversation, very, very interesting conversation, because he pointed out to me something which maybe most of you here can relate to. He said to me, you know, progress is being made in Jamaica, but there is the displacement of progress. In other words, the changes that we are making for progress, for prosperity, for transformation, will cause dislocation and displacement for some people. And that's what we call the paradox of progress. That as things are getting better, there are people looking on and say, well, it's not getting better for me. And it is a challenge that we have to deal with in a democracy, because if people don't feel that they are part of the progress, they will try to change the progress. And you could end up in a situation where you stop the progress, or you swap the displacement. So people who were previously, progressing, their progress is stopped so that another set can progress. Now, I'm not here to debate the morality or the wisdom of the action of random change, because that is the foundation, that's the essence of a democracy. If you're not happy, if you're feeling discontent, democracy gives you that right to exercise your vote and make a change. So as we are on the topic of democracy, you should be proud, because Jamaica is it's the oldest black democracy in the world. No historian has challenged me on this assertion, and I welcome further edification on the matter. But I've done my research, and speaking strictly about democracy as we know it, with universal adult suffrage and all the other institutions that we ascribe to modern democracy, Jamaica would be the first. And there are other countries which followed very closely after. But Jamaica has maintained over 70 years of unbroken democracy. Even in the 70s, when we had virtually an undeclared civil war, we were able to change governments seamlessly. And that is something that we must be proud of. So, we are at an inflection point. We are in our cocoon of transformation. At the end of it, we will be the butterfly, or if you prefer, the hummingbird. Yes, there is disgruntlement. Yes, there is displacement. And we maintain the freedom of our people to exercise their democracy. And therefore, I hope you're seeing the script being set up. So the issue is, how do you get democracy to deliver prosperity? That is the real challenge. Because democracy can be very random. Democracy presupposes that the people who exist in the democracy are either information seekers, that they go to find the information, or that they are rational with the information that they have. But that assumption is oftentimes very wrong. And that is why it is important, especially in the information age, that we communicate with our people, that we let our people know what your government is doing. And ultimately, you will decide. Ultimately, you will decide. So I'm here because I don't take it for granted that in the heights of the information age, where information is at your fingertip, that you will know. Because, in the abundance of water, there are some people who are thirsty. You may know that quote from, well, not a full quote, but you know the quote, what the quote says, but that's from Rat Race, Bob Marley. So we have to make sure that our Jamaicans not only have information, but they have knowledge. It's wanting to give information, but if you give information without context, that's not meaningful. Information with context creates knowledge. So today I want to give you some context along with the information about Jamaica. So, one of the areas in which Jamaica is experiencing this point of inflection, this positive turning point, is in the management of debt. Now, Jamaica has had a volatile history with debt. In the 70s, we experienced a debt crisis. And that crisis was caused by, and as I survey the audience, I would say maybe about 40% of the audience would recall some of these things, and you may have very well lived it. Oil price shocks. There were other crises internally created, the pursuit of democratic socialism. And those created significant debt that we were not able to repay. We had to borrow from the IMF, and that became a political issue because the view was that rapacious capitalist institutions were exploiting a poor developing country. And subliminally, that message is still telegraphed in the Jamaican population because there is somehow a view that somebody held our hands and forced us to go and sign the agreement to borrow. In the 1980s, similar issues, no pursuit of overly ambitious and impractical political aspirations, but we also had an oil price shock. But more than that, we had a price shock in bauxite. Bauxite earnings just fell off. And that created another crisis. And then in the 1990s, we had another shock. Some of you may remember FinSac. In fact, some of you are here because of FinSac. And some of you are here because of the 70s as well. Displacement. And so all that debt accumulated, paid down, accumulated again, paid down, accumulated. And then in 2008, we had another shock, another crisis. And that was a global financial collapse, which threw our debt way out. But the debt was also because we were not managing our public entities properly, and we just weren't managing public finances properly. And in 2010 and 2009, we had no choice but to confront this issue of debt. We had to confront debt. And some of you may remember the Jamaica Debt Exchange, which really started the process of weaning ourselves off debt. But a deeper process was engaged, and that was frugality. Many of you who are here, you manage your own household, and you know that you must live within your means. I grew up in a household where the ethos was you want to be independent, so you mustn't owe anybody anything. So I'm paying due respect to Victoria Mutual, who is a good lender. But I'm sure that is the ethos of many of you here. You do not want to get in debt. And, it is indeed a puzzle as to why governments have gotten into debt. But in the 2000s and 10s, we engaged with the IMF. Now, the government of which I am a part started the engagement with the IMF. We did not complete the engagement with the IMF. The previous government, the government of the PNP, re-engaged with the IMF with a new program. And that program, along with the foundations laid in 2010 with the fiscal responsibility framework, institutionalized strong management of our economic affairs. And when I took over, I decided that I would do further entrenchment of the robust management of our fiscal affairs. And we did things like the independence of the central bank. we created a policy for targeting inflation rather than trying to control exchange rate through interest rates. We put in place a fiscal commissioner, an independent body that will look at the budget and determine whether or not the government is coming with a credible spending plan that will not compromise critical things such as reducing our national debt. And several other innovative management strategies for our economy. And that has worked well to the point where we have delivered 10 budgets without having to institute net new taxes on the people of Jamaica. All right, so technically 8 budgets with absolutely no new taxes. And that is great. We have managed to stabilize the exchange rate. You know, 10 years ago, the dollar was moving rapidly. Real concern. Now, the dollar is very stable. Yes. We have the largest central bank reserves in the history of the country. Now, we were hit by a global pandemic. Tourism revenues just fell off. At this point, let me thank the Diaspora, because the Diaspora didn't fail us. And I know this because I used to have to make the COVID orders, the executive orders, different from these executive orders, but the COVID. to ensure that people could go to the remittance agencies and be able to access the money that you sent back to Auntie. Yes, it was very useful during that period of time. And, there's a view that, the diaspora is important only because of its remittances. But that's not true. Right? The diaspora is important because of the remittance. It is the system of social welfare that is not run by the state. I mean, you take care of the people who we may miss, your close relatives and even people in your communities, right? But the diaspora was also the repository of incredible skills and paradiplomacy connections. Because, when you needed ventilators and medical equipment and medical supplies, it was members of the diaspora who was calling to say, I have this, I have that, how can I get it home to Jamaica? I know a doctor, I know someone here. And when many Jamaicans were stranded, members of the diaspora who came up and ensured that your Jamaican brothers and sisters were able to survive. And many Jamaicans, you assisted with tablets, not pills now, but computers and other devices. So the diaspora is an incredible resource. Incredible resource. So if you were to judge Jamaica purely by the economic metrics, Jamaica is the example of a country that has pulled itself back from the brink of bankruptcy to now being the case study for a country exercising good fiscal management of their affairs. the last rating of Jamaica's sovereign instruments placed us at about 3 steps below investment grade. And that's significant for a country like Jamaica. And there is a line in the report which I find very instructive. It says that Jamaica outperforms its peer groups in governance and management of the economy. So the vision, the dream is that Jamaica will achieve its economic independence, where every Jamaican will have employment with income, good income, to be able to afford the quality of life that is enjoyed by any other country in the world, where you have the ability to fulfill yourself, and Jamaica will then be the place of choice to live, work, raise families, do business, and retire in paradise. That is what we're building. We're building an economy to deliver that. That is the dream. My predecessors, they didn't necessarily have the same dream. Much of what they aspired to was political independence, power. And that was because of, you have to appreciate the historical context of being dispossessed in their own land, the history of colonialism. And so the economic cost of achieving political power was never really a consideration. What was important is that we have the political power. And so much of Jamaica's past history for the last 50 years could be viewed in that prism. But it is instructive that it was Norman Manley who clearly understood that at independence, he said, we have achieved the political power. Now we must use that political power to achieve our economic independence, because it is in the economic independence that you will truly have political power. And so I see myself as a continuation for the ultimate political independence, but as a realist, a practical person. You know, I've often said that the laws of economics are as immutable as the laws of physics. You have to get the economics right. You have to get the economy right. And those of you who live in this society understand this business of the economy. Surprisingly enough, I am not original in this. I mean, this is the essence and ideal of Marcus Garvey. This is what Marcus Garvey was all about. That's what the Black Star Liner was all about. It was an expression of our economic independence to ultimately secure our political independence. So I see myself as continuing that struggle. But here is a challenge. With this glorious picture of us finally reaching that inflection point in the economy, how do we deal with, the paradox of progress, the displacement that it causes? Because, yes, as I shook hands with a small group that was gathered before I entered this audience, someone said to me, "So, Prime Minister, tell me, what are you going to do about healthcare in Jamaica?" So, healthcare is a good example of the displacement caused by progress. About more than 50 years ago, the government of Canada granted Jamaica a hospital, Cornwall Regional Hospital. It was a gift from our friends, the Canadians. It's a lovely facility, well-built, strong, robust facility. But like every man-made infrastructure, if you don't maintain it, it will become unusable, regardless of how strongly it was built. And it deteriorated to the point where the steel in the concrete started to rust. And those of you who understand buildings, you know that the concrete will start to crack and it will start to compromise. And so you have to go and clear out those things and coat it with epoxy. Very small things which are very time consuming. We had to change out the HVAC system. We had to take out almost all the windows and rerun the entire electrics in order to make the building functional to modern standards as a hospital. One could have said, then why not just knock down the building? It is a consideration. And the experience that we have had with that building and the time it has taken to get it done and the cost and the political exposure, I would say here that if we're confronted with other such buildings, we will seriously consider the option of just knocking down the building and starting afresh. So we have spent a significant amount of resources on that building. And the problem is when you go into an old building, once you start to pull, everything else that you encounter, you can't leave it there, you have to, and so you're literally drawn in. But we are close to completing that building, yes. But for the time that we have been in the cocoon trying to transform that building, people have been displaced. We have tried to put in measures, but it has had a displacing impact on healthcare in that region. Right beside it, however, we are building a brand new adolescent hospital, a gift by the Chinese government. And that will be the most modern adolescent facility in the Caribbean. And we intend to use it as such, not just a Jamaica hospital, but we will put in the best-in-class healthcare facility for the entire region to come and use it. We're building a new wing at the Spanish Town Hospital. Brand new wing. It will be very, very modern. We have started the redevelopment of the hospital facilities at the university campus. We're building several health centers across Jamaica, and almost every week Minister Tufton is opening a new facility. But as we build those out, there are other issues. Many people are concerned about not just the quality of the infrastructure, but they are concerned about the care in healthcare. They're concerned about how the nurses talk to them, how the doctors see them. They're concerned about these issues. And the doctors and the nurses, they too have their complaints. Because sometimes they're not easy people to deal with, you know. And with lacking facilities, it places increased pressure on the doctors and nurses. Now, we have relieved some of this pressure, and we recognize that there is a human resource deficit, both in terms of the quality of the service, not the technical delivery of the service, but the care that is exhibited sometimes, the patience to the patient that is exhibited. And what we have been doing is we have recently put in place a major scholarship program that would support the training and development of 600 health personnel. Yes, who will serve on a bonded basis in the system to increase the number of personnel in the system, to improve the quality of care, and to reduce the waiting time. And when you couple that with improved infrastructure, the quality of healthcare generally will improve. I will say without contradiction that the quality of healthcare in Jamaica today is better than it was 10 years ago. I'd say that without any fear of contradiction. And this is not on, my speaking passionately. This is something that can be studied and researched. Right? It was my administration, when Bruce Golding was the Prime Minister, who changed the health-seeking behavior of Jamaicans when we introduced free access to health care. Before that, people used to stay home and don't even bother to think about going to public hospitals because they could not afford the fees. The health-seeking behavior of Jamaicans that they now rely on and go to our public hospitals is as a result of the introduction of that policy. But we also recognize that our healthcare policy cannot be limited only to infrastructure, which no other government, except maybe in the 60s, could compete with the number of hospitals and improvements that we are doing in the health system. It cannot only be limited to trying to improve and increase the personnel. There are some lifestyle issues and some mental health issues that we have to treat with when we talk about health and public health in a comprehensive way. And for Jamaicans, diet and lifestyle is critical because the NCDs, the non-communicable diseases, those are taking a serious toll. And certainly, after the pandemic, we have noticed increased concerns for mental health. So, our public health policy is rapidly developing solutions around treating with these issues. So I want to shift a little bit from health, and I want to talk about crime and violence. Now, I know some of you are fed a steady diet of all the killings and violence and shootings and all the negative things that are happening in Jamaica. I know it's a concern for you. I know it's a concern for me as well. We have adopted a two-pronged strategy. First, we must examine this issue of violence. Violence as a public health consideration. Not just from a national security point of view. but from a public health standpoint. Because if you look at violence, you have intimate partner violence, man and woman business. You have domestic violence, which is brother and sister, neighbor and neighbor violence. And then you have parenting violence, otherwise called corporal punishment. The society may not necessarily see it as violence. And if you put those three together as, you know, the critical social violence in the society that we have to treat with, you know, these things pervade our social interaction. You know, we usually say you go to a dance and a man step on your toe and you reach for your ratchet knife. That instinctive response that when you're in conflict, the only way to resolve it is to resort to violence. Unfortunately, that has crept into our consciousness, and it has just overtaken too much of our social interactions. So I would say that over the last 40 years, the level of aggressiveness in the society has reached an intolerable level. And it is changing the brand of Jamaica. It is adding a certain coarseness to our texture. And that has to be dealt with. And that has to be dealt with, as I said, from a public health standpoint. But in the last 30 years, we have seen a new form of violence emerged. And that is called organized violence. That is criminal enterprises using organized violence for economic means. Gangs in communities trying to dominate and control spaces. 70% of murders in Jamaica are directly gang-related. If you were to eliminate gangs from Jamaica, Jamaica's murder rate would fall to below the regional average of 16 per 100,000. So the two-pronged strategy, we have to treat with the public health issue of violence, and that is why we have put in place the National Violence Prevention Commission to study and give us some recommendations as to how to treat with this, right? I know you're all concerned our country can't go down this road of coarseness. Has to be stopped. But as you are well seized, it is not a simple issue as a decree from the platform, because there are many persons who believe that violence is important. You have to beat the picnic for the picnic to grow up good. And there are people who genuinely believe that you show love to the woman and not even go and say it. Those things are deeply ingrained. And so it's going to take time to reculture our people out of those beliefs. So that's a long-term project. But in the short term, we can deal with organized violence. And Jamaica has had great results in treating with violence. Some of you may recall the terrible periods of the 70s, 80s, 90s, and early 2000s when Jamaica had political violence. But the government of the day, you have to give P.J. Patterson credit and Edward Seaga credit for the formation and institutionalization of the Electoral Commission and the passage of various laws, such as the voiding of elections affected by violence. And that put an end. Of course, the political parties themselves and civil society's own pressure, the actors started to eschew violence in politics. And the society rejected it. So there is an example. There is a way in which we can overcome this business of the organized violence in the society. And we have started. Right? We are being very tough on the gangs. We have put in place anti-gang legislation. We are prosecuting gangs under the legislation. We intend to bring new legislation to be more proactive in preventing gangs from forming. And the police has been very robust and kinetic in their operations these days. So as I stand here today, my last report from the Commissioner of Police, who accompanied me to the door of the aircraft, he told me that the murder rate so far would be that we are 35% behind where we were last year this time. And of course, you would have heard that we ended 2024, right? Almost 20%, 19 point, little bit, 20%, almost 19% below 2023. And we ended 2023 7% below 2022. So progress is being made. Progress is being made. And what I would want from the members of the diaspora is to acknowledge that Jamaica is in this cocoon of transformation as it relates to violence. I want to focus a little bit on employment. The purpose of an economy is to deliver jobs. That's the purpose of the economy. Is to get people to be able to work. Because that is the fairest way in which you can participate in the economy. Of course, not everyone will be employed. Right? Employment is a totally different thing from working. You can work for yourself. You can be an entrepreneur. You can be an innovator. You can work for charity. You can work for free. We do it all the time. We make contributions to our society. We call it voluntary contribution. But you need to have an economic structure that supports work. I mean, work is important for your health, not just for your wealth, for the exercise of the human capacity to create. You need an economy for that. Because if you don't have an economy, what happens? People migrate. Why do you think you're all here? I tell you this, the day the Jamaican economy, the day our GDP is even half what the GDP of the United States is, when I come to a church like this, maybe only the front row would be here. It's a reality. I go to Cayman, and every third person I meet is a Jamaican. If I go to Antigua, it's the same thing. There are about 1 million of you here right now in the United States, or maybe more. I'm certain it's less. But that's the reason, right? It's the economy. So we must be vested in making sure that the economy works, right? To give you the opportunity to work. So we are in this cocoon of transforming the economy. And the best metric of the success of the economy as it relates to the ability for people to work is in the unemployment rate. We're at 3.5% unemployment. 3.5%. And if you look at that number, it's not as low as the US, and there are other countries with lower unemployment rate. But in the context of Jamaica, when you look at our participation rate in the economy, you would start to develop the view that you're almost close to full employment. Now, that is a starting point. That's not the ending point. Because we have different problems now that we are close to full employment. Now is where the productivity issues start to show themselves, where employers start to complain bitterly that for every additional staff they take on and they need staff, their output does not increase by a consummate number. So productivity is becoming an issue. Now, there is a lesson that the Jamaican electorate will have to learn over time, as I'm sure all of you who sit in this audience already understands, that there is a connection between the maintenance of the value of your income, your purchasing power, and your productivity. For a very long time, we have been focusing on trying to keep up with inflation in Jamaica. So there is a inbuilt, ingrained expectation that salaries, must move in step or if not exceed the rate of inflation, because that's the only way you're going to maintain your purchasing power. It is an illusion. What we need to start to pay attention to is not just the output of labor, because when we have this conversation about productivity, somehow it seems as if we are blaming labor. Labor is a part of the problem, but not the entirety of the problem, and indeed not the first port of call for the solution of the problem. But generally, what we want is for an increase in total factor productivity, because it is the increase in productivity that will stem the increase in prices, right? The increase in output reduces the average cost of production, theoretically, but also realistically. And so, in countries like the United States, most, if not all, of your systems are performance-based. You have targets that you have to meet. It's output-oriented, and your electorate votes for that. So we need to get the Jamaican electorate to start seeing our problem in this light, that the government has put in place measures to prevent the government from creating inflation. Because right now the inflation rate is 4.5% thereabout, well within our target band. So the government isn't creating inflation. And what we need to do now is to increase the output of the country so that people's cost of living and purchasing power is maintained. That is a big challenge. So it means now that we have to upskill and further train our labor force. And that is something that we are presently involved in. It means that we will have to bring in new industries and new businesses into Jamaica. It also means that we have to mobilize the Jamaican diaspora. Yes, we want the remittances. Yes, we want the great philanthropy. that you exercise for our country. But I want you to buy homes in Jamaica. I want you to come back with the AI technology. I want you to come back with the cybersecurity expertise and set up business. Yes, I want you to come back to Jamaica and invest in Jamaica and help us build that economy. Now, I know that not everyone believes that. Because you say, you come back and you say, boy, I have to think about my health care, the bad roads. I'll come for vacation. And no matter what, you will be the strongest defender of Jamaica. I understand that. And I'm not expecting that everyone will heed my call. But if only 10, it's a big start. Yes, and I'm certain that within the curtilage of this great church, that there may be even 20 that would have heard my voice and heeded the call to come and invest in Jamaica. Bring the new industries in. I want to talk a little bit about infrastructure. Another area in which Jamaica is in the cocoon, transforming. There is no other era, maybe for the 1960s, where the government has invested so much in infrastructure. Look, I drive on the roads too. And I drop in potholes too. All right? And it's not something to be made light of or to joke about. But Jamaica, like many other countries in the world, suffer from aged infrastructure. I don't know how many of you remembered that in the Biden administration, when he just won, he had a major investment in infrastructure program because the idea was that the United States was facing the same challenge of aged infrastructure. And that, previous administrations had neglected to invest in infrastructure. Well, Jamaica's problem is far worse because with a poor economy, even with a poor economy, you will still build roads and bridges. You may not build them at the pace needed, but you are still building them. But when you are faced with a choice of a limited budget, you're going to ask yourself, when it comes to the recurrent expenditure, do I spend it on maintaining the roads, or do I pay the teachers, the nurses, and the doctors? And governments for the last 40 years have been faced with that choice. So the governments will borrow the capital to build the roads. But you really can't borrow for recurrent, even though we ended up at a point where we were doing that. And so what you earn is just simply not enough to satisfy all the recurrent needs. So you have to make a choice. This choice has never really been brought to the Jamaican electorate, because how politicians speak to the electorate is in a way that glosses over the complexities and the difficulties. And if you're a politician that tries to get too in-depth, people say, you go on like you're brighter than we. And so politicians have sought to kind of paint an unrealistic picture of the challenges that Jamaica faces, and has never really sought to bring the electorate in to the understanding. So there are many persons in the electorate who are of the view that the government has the funds stashed away in some secret vault somewhere, and they're just mean-spirited and not taking the funds to fix the road. And I hear a lot of people calling from the diaspora saying, I'm calling from New Jersey, and I was just in Jamaica the other day. I went back to my country part, wherever. And the road, I know some of you in here do that. And the road, and the quarrel about the water. I understand. But I want you to understand that the many years of not having the budget to conduct ongoing maintenance would mean that the infrastructure would reach a tipping point, as the Cornwall Regional Hospital did, for many years of lack of maintenance. And it is just now, with the good, solid economic management, that we are able to make allocations. Not enough for it to be done all at once. We don't have the capacity to do it all at once. We don't have enough contractors to do it all at once. But, the minister without portfolio in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation responsible for works pointed out that no other administration has spent the budget that we have spent on the maintenance of roads in Jamaica. No, none. And yet, there is still this paradox of progress, this displacement of progress. People feel that they are not included. So, I think you've got the picture. And I've used certain sectors in the economy to show you that cocoon, how we are making the progress, right? And whilst we are in that cocoon, it's an uncomfortable period, and there are persons who will feel that they are not a part of the transformation. So what I'm enlisting you to do this afternoon is to explain what I have said to you, to your family back in Jamaica. Because you easily relate to what I have said to you. Because you have to live that experience here every day. The mayor and your other elected officials here, you understand what it means to run a city and to make sure you have that recurrent budget so that as there is a pothole and you are called by one of your constituents, immediately you can repair it. But you have the economy that supports it. And what happens to the cities here that can't maintain the roads and have the potholes? What happens? People leave. And that is what has happened to Jamaica. So it is very important that whatever you vote for, and whoever you vote for, make sure you are voting for the maintenance of good economic management. Whatever color you prefer, whatever household you grew up in, whoever is your favorite leader, whoever inspired you the most, all I say to you is this: vote for the best interest of Jamaica. Jamaica is at the inflection point in its transformation journey. And during this difficult cocoon, whoever is at the helm must assure, if not guarantee, those who have not yet felt the effects of transformation, those who have been displaced by the process of progress, that the process of transformation will be fair, inclusive, and equitable. And that is what this government has sought to do. We have announced a program called the Solidarity Program. And we will be rolling that program out shortly. Because we know that there are people in Jamaica who have not benefited from any of the COVID grants. I know a lot of you here would have gotten back checks from your government during COVID. That's the benefit of living in an economy that is doing well. Yes, some of you did get. There are many Jamaicans who got back from the government. In fact, I make this point, not one Jamaican civil servant or public sector worker was laid off during COVID. Not one. And no salaries were cut during COVID for public sector workers. None. Point that is oftentimes overlooked, but it should and must be said. Good economic management do that. We know that there are Jamaicans who are not benefiting from the social pension. We introduced a social pension that if you are 75 years and older and you weren't a contributor to the National Insurance Fund, the social conscience is that you should not be out there suffering. So we give you a supplement to whatever income you may have. We know that there are Jamaicans who have not yet benefited from the new social housing program. We believe that there are about 6,000 households that are in the worst of the worst conditions. We have assisted persons who are living in motor vehicles, persons living in trees. We have built houses for them and transformed their lives. And we know that there are persons looking on and saying, I see all of this happening, what about me? Right? We know that there are many Jamaicans who have not benefited from the increase in the income tax threshold, which essentially gives, a tax-free portion, a higher tax-free portion of the income. We know that there are persons who have not benefited from the reverse tax credit that we have given, right? So we know that there are people looking on and saying, oh, I see this one get, I see that one get, I see this group getting, that sector getting. What about me? So I want to say that we have solidarity. We stand with you. And we're going to structure a program to make sure that we get to you too as well. Because the growth that we are trying to achieve is inclusive and equitable. So, as I close, I urge you to choose what is best for Jamaica. Choose Jamaica. God bless you, and thank you for your attention.
All right. Thank you all so very much. But before you leave, we're at an important... You may be seated for a few. We're not going to belabor this for very long because the Reverend Dr. Green wouldn't permit it. But that was a tremendous... that was a tremendous speech, Mr. Prime Minister. And I think what I got out of it, and I am slow, is that when you're at an inflection point, you must break out of your cocoon like a butterfly and free the people to live in a prosperous, transparent democracy. Thank you, Mr. Prime Minister. Thank you. All right. We're going to have a chance to ask a few questions, but very few. As you know, we're in a church, and our Jewish friends will tell you that in the Torah, there's a description of the burning bush. In Exodus, the 3rd chapter, verses 1 through 6, Dr. Green will tell you that there is a description of the burning bush. And in the Quran, in the 20th surah, verses 9 through 36, you will see a description of the burning bush. Why do I tell you all of that? You see, because the name wholeness means wooded holly plant that's emanating a glow. Now, before you start emailing and texting me, I'm not saying that the Prime Minister is an angel in a burning bush, right? Nor is he Moses. But I'm saying this to tell you that soon after Moses had freed the people from Israel, they immediately and they left the country that they were in, they immediately started attacking him. So this evening, because we're in a church, I'm going to ask that you make your questions succinct, right, to the point. All right, and then we're going to have very few questions so that you can get a chance to go home or to stop at Dutch Pot and get... I'm sorry, no, not Dutch. What's your name of your restaurant? So, thank you. All right, all the restaurants here in Miramar, and of course, it's right here in Miramar, Juicy Patties. I'm going to have one right after to get a patty. So this is how we're going to do it. We're going to ask you that you could kindly just raise your hand. Someone is going to bring the mic around to you. I have cataract, so I can't see hands very clearly. So however many hands I see, that's who we're calling on. So we're going to call on this nice gentleman over here in a suit. Yes, sir. If you could just give your name and your questions succinctly. All right.
Good evening.
All right, thank you. Let's move to the next question.
Yes.
No, oh, sorry.
All right. I have a two-part question for you. Prime Minister, how are you doing? You mentioned about infrastructure just now, and I just had to bring this piece out. Because as a person who is involved in construction and road building and so on, one section of my life, I know that there's one issue in Jamaica where the life expectancy of roads is totally ignored, overlooked, not documented, and is perhaps one of the fundamental issues we have with the road structures. They've outlived their life expectancy, and nobody is tracking these roads. And the purpose, as I mentioned. Can you tell us this evening that you are now looking at this fact and going forward, that there is a blueprint or there is record, documentation of every piece of road that get built, the time it was built, and how long it is expected to live?
I want to say from the outset, I don't know this gentleman, and I didn't ask him to ask that question. But it is a pertinent question, and I'm hoping that the Jamaicans who are watching online would appreciate the question that he asked. He didn't ask me, Prime Minister, why you're not fixing the roads. He didn't ask that question. He didn't call in to say, the road in such and such a community has been there for how many years and it is in a bad state and the government not doing anything about it. He didn't ask that question. Because by right, that is not the relevant question. Forgive me if it jars you a bit. But as he said, he understands construction. When you build a road, it won't last forever. So the engineering science is very mature on this. That when you build a road, you know what the useful life of the road will be. And therefore, when you are building a road, you are not only providing for the capital cost to construct the road, but you must also provide for the maintenance over the life cycle of the road, which will probably extend the life of the road to the point where you may have to invest rehabilitative capital works to further extend the life of the road. So the fiscal requirement for building a road is not just the capital cost one time, you must also program in the maintenance cost of the road. So when you see a pothole emerge in your road today, it is not the government of the day under whose watch the pothole emerge that is the cause of it.
They may be responsible because they have to fix it. But that's not what caused it. What caused it in the first place is a system that was not properly developed to manage the life cycle of the road. And that is what Jamaica has faced. So I hear a former prime minister come out and criticizing me about roads. If I were a different prime minister, I would have answered him in a more direct way. Because roads that he would have built has now fallen to me to maintain. So I want the Jamaican electorate, the Jamaican populace to understand that we have taken a different approach to the maintenance of roads. And it is in the question asked by this gentleman. Have you started now to document each road, when it was built, the useful life, and the fiscal implication of that road? And the answer to you, sir, is yes. I've announced this in Parliament several times, but a lot of people don't take it on because the knowledge isn't there. I'm so happy that someone who understands it has asked the question about how we are transforming the roads. So we have now used the data science through GIS mapping to map all the roads in Jamaica. And they are now in a registry which documents their current state of repair. It documents what their expected useful life is. And now we're going to be doing the other part of it, which is to do the financial mapping, which will take us across budgets to put in place a multi-cycle maintenance plan for roads. And we have launched that program. That program is called the SPARK program, the largest one-time expenditure on local and main roads in Jamaica. We have identified right now, yes, 40 billion Jamaican dollars, over 600 roads are going to be rehabilitated, not patched, rehabilitated. In other words, brought to a point where their useful life is extended, maybe for another 7 years to 10 years if we get good weather. And that has never before happened in Jamaica. So when people are quarreling about the conditions of the roads now, I understand. I am responsible. Yes, I am responsible, and I'll do my best to get the budget to repair them. But please know that a greater transformation is taking place in how Jamaican roads are maintained. Right? Within 10 years, I don't want to go say pothole free by 2003. Some of you might remember that commitment. But within short order, man, you're going to have carpet on every road in Jamaica. God bless you.
The yellow jacket here. Thanks.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Dr. Holness. I'm happy to be here this evening, and I'm glad for the progress that you have told each and every one of us. But one of my main concerns is the health care. You said that you are implementing scholarships for doctors and nurses. But what are you doing right now for those who are employed? What kind of program, training are you putting in place? Because I'm concerned about this. It was just February 13th that my mom, myself, we went to Jamaica, and I never returned with her. She died in Jamaica. This is her picture. She was buried last week, Saturday. All because staff within the university hospital did not do their due diligence. And I would not even take the time to tell you the trauma that I experienced there. So what are you doing currently for those who are there, who are already employed?
First of all, before the Prime Minister responds, our condolences to you on the passing of your loved one. God bless you. Mr. Prime Minister.
Again, please let me join the moderator in extending my sincere condolences on the unfortunate passing of your mom in a Jamaican hospital, I gather. Now, the program that I mentioned is a scholarship program. It's not just for doctors and nurses. It is for a wide variety of healthcare professionals. And a large part of it is focused on ensuring that the healthcare professionals practice the care in healthcare, which would mean the diligence, the patience, and the exercise of proper judgment and risk assessment, and speed in response. The current doctors who are there, I must make this general statement, are generally very well trained and indeed are of world-class standards, which is why they are so well sought after. But I would not be totally honest if I did not also declare that I am concerned, particularly when I hear of cases like yours. Now, I don't know the details, but I have had enough cases brought to my attention where patients and loved ones have complained about quality of service, time and attention. And we have to be honest and realistic that this is something that needs the full focus and attention of the government of Jamaica. And we have had this discussion with Minister Tufton about how do we treat with it. There are complexities because the doctors and nurses feel that they themselves are exposed because the issue of errors, malpractice, and genuine mistakes made do have serious implications, not only for the victims, but for the medical professionals themselves. But as we improve the healthcare system, it is my commitment, as I said earlier, to ensure that our doctors, nurses, and other healthcare professionals practice with the highest regard and respect for the preservation of the life of every Jamaican or anyone who comes into their care, regardless of economic state or social status. So it is a commitment of the government to ensure that these matters are addressed. And those that come to our attention, we ensure that they are thoroughly investigated so that there is not a sense of impunity or immunity emerging in our healthcare system where people feel that they don't have to give the best and highest quality of care because there's no consequence for failure to properly practice. I want to give you the assurance. And if your situation is one that would need a review, please bring it to my attention and we will have such done.
Thank you, Mr. Prime Minister. Another short question. We're going to wrap it up shortly here.
Very brief. Evening, everyone. Is this on? Yeah. I'm Sandra Brown, Mr. Prime Minister, a highly effective educator here in the United States in South Florida. I've only taught here, but that effectiveness, I think, is partly due to my effective education earned in Jamaica. And so, thanks. And so it goes without saying that as an educator here, my concern is always leaning towards what's going on in my home country. Inequity in education there in many areas, improvements, teacher recognition and teacher salaries, and the fact that often our teachers there are being recruited here. And so what is the regime's plan to address those issues and to keep good educators on the island?
To be very quick, education obviously is not a subject to be rushed, but I'm cognizant of the time. I recently empaneled a national commission to review Jamaica's education system, and we have launched a program to transform Jamaica's education system. I'm not of the view that our current education system is sufficient to take us to the level of growth that we need. And I think generally parents are of that view as well. The education system is in dire need of radical reform. We have put in place a program to build 7 new schools. We're going to call them STEAM schools: science, technology, education, arts, and mathematics. That's what they're going to be focused on. They're going to be state-of-the-art schools, purpose-built with all the labs and the modern functioning classroom to introduce all kinds of new teaching and learning styles and to integrate and incorporate technology from the root up. So that is in the works to come. As it relates to teachers and pay, the truth is that we would like to pay our teachers more. I believe our teachers deserve to be paid more. And as I say that, I can hear the nurses looking at me side-eye. And so I know I'm going to get into all kinds of problems. But if you consider that, teaching is the core of everything else, that, yes, I was a minister of education, so people will understand my bias in this regard. But there is a practical concern, and we can't create. You talk about inequities. We can't create great disparities in wages in the public sector, and so everybody has to be paid in accordance with a particular maintaining a particular differential. Now, just to be reasonable, the government of Jamaica can't stop our teachers from wanting to migrate. I take the opportunity to encourage our teachers as best as possible to continue to give service to Jamaica. What I will say is that as the government pivots to growth, the focus is going to be on the creation of the new Jamaican labor force and the upskilling of the existing labor force, and teachers and instructors and all the people involved in the education institution. You are going to be critical to the growth of Jamaica. And therefore, we, this administration, will pay the necessary attention and put the necessary resources in education, as we have been doing.
Prime Minister. Hello.
All right, we actually have someone here.
Yes.
This gentleman right here.
Right over here. Right over here, sir.
Yeah, just there's a gentleman who I had selected earlier. Right, could you go? Thank you, sir.
Good evening, Kijani Williams here. Prime Minister, since 2016, we've seen a lot of focus placed on balancing the books, debt reduction, and the stabilizing of the economy. Commendably, now we have achieved relative macroeconomic stability and have greater fiscal space. But my question is, when does the real growth begin? What are the plans to drive significant economic growth, not just over the next 5 years, but to lay a foundation over the next 25 years to reach and see true prosperity?
I like the question. It's a powerful question. So we have announced a pivot. We're not coming off the ground that we have claimed, which is economic stability, but we're going to lift, one of our feet, and we're going to put it on another step. We're going to make a turn, and that is towards growth. And to do that, there are several strategies that we have in place. One of the strategies is to focus on agriculture. In a disruptive and chaotic world, food security is important. Jamaica must be able to always feed itself, and that is why we're making massive investments in irrigating the arable lands that we have, particularly in St. Elizabeth, Manchester, and Clarendon. Some of you may have heard about the it's a massive agricultural area in St. Elizabeth and Pedro Plains. Thank you. So I see people in the audience know. So the Pedro Plains project has been talked about for over 50 years. It is bringing water from the Black River to irrigate all of those very arable land. And we have started that project. It's a $60 billion project, and the government has started it. We are irrigating the Essex Valley, and we are irrigating some other areas in Clarendon. And that will create several thousand hectares of land for agriculture. So that is going to be an important plank of growth in agriculture. A part of growth is the speed at which you do business, the ease of business, and the cost of doing business. In the United States, you're struggling with something called Doge. You know, that's looking at the cost of the bureaucracy. We have to focus in Jamaica on the efficiency of the bureaucracy, because nothing that you do can get done without a bureaucracy. But bureaucracies can become self-indulgent, meaning that they exist to serve themselves and not necessarily to serve the outcome that you are expecting. And ever so often, the executive of the country has to refocus bureaucracy and shave them down, restructure them, do the business process engineering. And so we have started that. We have the former ambassador to the United States, Audrey Marks. She has been appointed as a minister with the responsibility for the reform of the Jamaican bureaucracy to make it more purpose fit for supporting business and growth in Jamaica. So I just pointed you to two growth initiatives that we're doing right now.
All right, so
Yes.
we're going to hear from, sorry, let me say this to you this evening. We are overwhelmed by the number of people who would like to ask questions. Unfortunately, time is not going to permit us to get many more questions in. However, so the Consul General, though, has committed that you can send questions into the Consul General's office. They'll forward it to the Prime Minister's office for a response. We're going to have two more questions, and that's it. This very nice gentleman over here in blue, I'm just yes, and right, but yeah, this person he's had a mic before.
All
right.
Good afternoon, Prime Minister.
All right, thank you.
Good afternoon, Prime Minister. I'm Jeffrey Tavares. My question to you tonight, sir, is this. I have been bombarded with a lot of calls pertaining to Jamaicans here in the diaspora not getting their pensions. And when they called the Social Security office in Jamaica, they're being given a ringaroll. I myself picked my phone up and called down there. And Prime Minister, you put on hold, they take you to Negril and back to Morant Bay. And they give you a ringaroll all around the Rosie. So I don't know, what can you do to allow citizens from Jamaica who lives in the United States, in Canada, in London, that they can get their pensions? Because even if there's a lifeboat they talk about, they do all of that, and it's still a problem, Prime Minister. So what can you do to assist them, sir?
You raised a problem which has been raised with me just recently, where there was a glitch in the delivery of certain pension payments. So at that time, it was explained to me that it was just a temporary situation. But you are saying that you are experiencing what you would say is a long-term problem. Right. So what I will do now is I'll note this. My office is here with me. I'll note this challenge, and if you give me the specifics of your case, I could track it down for you. But I will also look at the specifics of this. In fact, this is exactly why we need to reform the bureaucracy. One of the greatest complaints we have is that when citizens call the government for service, they don't get instant response. And in today's day, that shouldn't be the case. So I want everybody to know that we are not comfortable with that, and that is why we have put in place SPEED. That is a government program to reform the bureaucracy. That, to me, sir, seems to be an area that I should direct Minister Marks to immediately look at. What is the customer service and business processes being employed for the dispatch of pensions to Jamaicans, overseas or in Jamaica? So, okay, somebody's going to come to you.
Right, listen. Hello. Let me. Could you? May I have your attention for a minute? So if you were before me in court, right? The bailiff you'll be held in contempt and you'll be taken away. But we're in a nice church, Dr. Green's church, right? So let me say this to you. I want to hear every question that's here tonight, but we will be here until the wee hours of the morning. The Prime Minister would like to answer every question, but that would be impossible. And the folks who are here with him and the Secret Service, they need to usher him to another location, okay? So I appreciate you. You are amazing. The amount of time that you've spent here today. I love all of you. We're going to have this lady right here with the cream-colored dress. She's going to ask a question. And then, listen, everyone else, I implore you, I encourage you to send your questions into the Consul General's office, and we'll make sure that it's answered. Finally, with respect to the last question that was asked, one addendum, you can open a VMS account and call VMBS and call 305-770-2643 and have your pension deposited in there. Not making any commercial announcements. Someone just wrote this on a bit of paper. All right, yes, ma'am.
Good night, everybody. Wow. Okay.
All right. Last two. If we be quick, I promise you I'll give you a 1-minute answer.
Let's start with the lady in the green at the back.
All right, go ahead, lady in the green at the back.
Good evening. I'm Olga Matthews from St. Anne. Alexandria Hospital has been closed for many, many years, and residents have found it very difficult to go to St. Anne's Bay Hospital for care. Is there anything in the stars for another hospital in Alexandria?
That's a very good question, thanks.
My brother, who is deputy mayor for St. Anne, I hope he'll do something.
Thanks for the question. I have not looked into the crystal ball for Alexandria Hospital recently. But now that you have raised it with me, I will have a discussion with Minister Tufton. If they did close the hospital, it's obviously for a reason in terms of the economics and logistics. But I will look into it as you have raised it here with me. I'll look into it.
I hope nobody is upset with me tonight, because I don't know how to deal with that. Good night, Mr. Prime Minister. I speak to a lot of people on a daily basis on an app called Clubhouse. And one of the things that I'm always asked as a Jamaican is, when are we going to open up flights to more places in Africa? I speak to a lot of people across the continent on a daily basis. And that's my question, because they want to know.
Important question. So let me give you
some good news. They want to know.
So let me give you some good news. You know we have an air service agreement signed with Nigeria.
Correct.
And we had an inaugural flight, I believe it was last year. And now, the last time I checked, is that the flights are now coming in. So I believe they had one recently, and others are planned. It's always a challenge because of the distance, but we have a very strong agreement with Nigeria. So you're going to see more people from the African continent coming to Jamaica directly. And last question, last one. Quick, 1 minute, one minute.
I only have a comment. I am a second generation. My name is Destiny. I'm also a cousin of Maxie Priest. I'm a realtor, and I wanted to say something positive, that I have a lot of people that do want to buy property in Jamaica. I actually enrolled. There's a course that you can do, a Zoom. So that's why I was trying to say something positive so that we can give back into Jamaica, like you were saying.
Yes.
You can actually take a real estate course.
So you are a realtor registered in Jamaica.
I'm going to do the Zoom. It's going to be in
Excellent.
July. So I'm going to be doing real estate in Jamaica. So I wanted to say that because people don't realize that if you're already a realtor here or anywhere in the United States, Jamaica will allow you to take a course and then you can actually do real estate.
That is the
because there are a lot of people here that do want to buy in Jamaica.
And let me endorse that plug.
Yes.
There are a lot of properties, a lot of developments that rival the developments here in Miami. And I would encourage you to buy property in Jamaica. God bless you all. Thank you for coming out. You've been a wonderful audience.
Before you go, hold on. Prime Minister, hold on. A gentleman in the community, listen carefully. Gentleman in the community who has brought 2 big pots of soup for all you to enjoy, he also has a lovely painting, and it's a gentleman who we all know very well. Mr. Mark Cameron is going to make a special presentation now to the Prime Minister. Turn it around now. Let's give a big round of applause. One Jamaica.
Are we permitted to sing One Love?
Everybody, we're going to sing One Love in true Bob Marley style to send us out. 1, 2, 3. One love, one heart. Let's get together and feel all hands in the air now. One love, one heart. Thanks, get together and feel alright. Give thanks and praise to the Lord, and I will feel alright. One Love Jamaica, thanks for coming out. We love you.
All right.
Eh?